And mark my fucking words, if I see any man promoting this shit, I am not going to be civil about it. And if I see anybody attempting to use this Academy's tactics, it's going to get fucking messy.
Look at the crazy eyes, by the way. What's up, guys? It's JQ. This is going to be a big one. I'm going to say some controversial stuff in this video, but it's things that need to be said. I think one of the things people like about me and about this channel is that I speak truthfully, even if I think the message won't be popular. Everything I discuss here is based on my own research, observation, and life experiences, and I do not misrepresent things in order to get you to believe me. For that reason, one thing I cannot stand is people who are fake and inauthentic, people who distort things in order to try to sell you an ideology, or people who portray themselves a certain way in order to get you to like them when in reality, they are not like that at all. Unless you've been living under a rock, you have seen the viral story about the online Ape Academy. Apparently we cannot say certain words on this platform, where husbands have been drugging and aping their wives. If you have not done so already, you should check out the original video article that CNN published. This story was conducted with very thorough investigative journalism, and I encourage you to check it out. Now, before I go any further, I want to be absolutely clear. This is a serious issue that has real victims and real women were violated. This is important for us to keep in mind when discussing this story because this is not just a headline to be used to advance an agenda. The fact that these women were assaulted is very tragic and they deserve justice. But that's not what we're talking about, is it? The narrative has shifted. Instead of talking about the women and getting justice for them, we are talking about this statistic that has been circulating online that says 62 million men perpetuated crimes against their wives. Or not all men, but 62 million. Posts such as this one. 62 million men are enrolled in an online Ape Academy. 62 million men. I want you to focus on that part, men. I'm going to come back to that in just a second, but I just want you to take that in for now. Or perhaps you've seen videos like this one.
Husbands are grape culture. And if you're like, what are you talking about? Well, if you haven't heard, there were 62 million husbands who were involved in a grape academy where they were learning the tricks in the trade of how to drug and grape your wife and sell that content or invite other dudes over to participate or, just like get more proficient at this practice of drugging and graping your sleeping wife. So this is the vibe. If this wasn't grape culture, that means that 62 million men are truly demented. And I would argue that husbandry is grape culture because it's within this context of being a husband that you feel entitled to the body of your wife, yeah?
Thank you for your so thorough analysis of this situation. Well, then it came out that this number wasn't exactly accurate. In fact, it wasn't 62 million men who were enrolled in any academy. In fact, there is no academy. Let's see what the original article said about this.
One website profiting from this is motherless.com. Last year, we began investigating a porn site that gets over 60 million visits a month, focusing on the thousands of videos featuring women who appear unconscious during sex acts.
And here they talk about the actual network of people sharing this type of content in a Telegram group.
We created a fake name and soon got into a private Telegram group that's dedicated to sharing sleep content with almost 1,000 members.
So in fact, 62 million men were not part of an online Ape Academy. In fact, there was no online academy whatsoever. There was a Telegram group that had almost 1,000 members in it. And then there is a porn site in which there were 62 million visits to the porn site, and that was not broken down by gender, category, or any full meaningful information. Essentially, that has little to nothing to do with the amount of people who are in the Telegram group. Okay, does that make it any less serious that there are 1,000 people in a Telegram group devoted to sharing non-consensual sex acts? No, that is extremely serious, but I'm going to tell you in a second why these numbers matter and why it is actually sinister that these accounts are trying to misrepresent this data in this way. This isn't a little bit off, this is many orders of magnitude off. Now, before I break it down, you don't need to be a statistics PhD to know that these numbers are wrong. If you have more than a couple brain cells, you should be able to deduce that just by doing a very basic level of critical thinking. For example, I know off the top of my head that the United States has a little more than 300 million people living in it. And based on that, I can deduce that about 150 million of those are men. And just based on what I guess, I can estimate that probably around half at most of those men are married. It turns out that the actual number of married men in the USA is about 67, 68 million. Now, I know that there could be users outside the USA, but in the article they say that most of the consumption takes place in the United States, so we're going to use that as an example. So, if we were to believe this statistic, that would mean that 62 out of 68 million men, in other words, 92% of all married men, are aping and drugging their wives at night. And it doesn't take a rocket science to know that that is definitely not true. How untrue is it? Well, if we use the other statistic in the article, 1,000 people in a Telegram group, and divide that into 68 million, we will find that instead of 92%, we get 0.001%. Put another way, 1 out of 67,000 people would be potentially in that Telegram group. Now, once these errors came out, a lot of people said, well, it doesn't matter if it's 1 man or 62 million men. Either way, it's too many. And I agree that anyone being assaulted is a tragic incident and there needs to be justice for that. But the numbers do matter, and I'm going to explain why. And why misrepresenting them is actually sinister and takes us further away from the solution to the problem rather than closer to it. Let's look at what some other male influencers said about this.
62 million. That's how many men have visited a website teaching people how to drug and rape women. I don't want to hear a fucking word from dudes being offended when women say it's all men. 62 million. And before somebody comes in with, well, actually it was 62 million views, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. It doesn't fucking matter.
Look at the crazy eyes, by the way.
The fact that it exists in the first place and that people are using it should fucking disgust you if you consider yourself a good man. Men, listen up. It's all of us until it's none of us. You have an obligation to your mothers, your sisters, daughters, any woman in your life, and women that you don't know, to put a stop to this. Be vocal against this rampant misogyny, and mark my fucking words. If I see any man promoting this shit, I am not going to be civil about it. And if I see anybody attempting to use this Academy's tactics, it's going to get fucking messy.
These douchebags are not any sort of men that you should follow whatsoever. These are weak, spineless men, and I'll tell you why. These men do not care about this issue. Let me say that again. These asshats do not give a shit about this issue. What they care about is performing and pretending like they care about this issue so that you will like them. They do not actually care about it, because if they did, they would have watched the article. As somebody who was interested in the story, as I was, the first thing I did was say, wow, I can't believe that's going on. Let me see the article myself and watch it for myself. If they had watched the article, they would understand and know the facts of the story. And this distortion does not help. It actually hurts the situation because it pulls attention away from the people who are actually committing the crimes and away from the victims who are affected by these perpetrators. Victims such as Zoe, Amanda, Valentina, or Giselle. Have you heard any of the aforementioned people talk about these victims or about obtaining justice for them? No, because they don't even know who they are, because they didn't even bother to read the article. They just saw a headline and started yapping their mouth rather than actually looking into the situation for themselves and doing a bit of critical thinking. As you probably know from work or any sort of group situation, if everyone is responsible for something, then no one is responsible for something. And this is why this kind of behavior is actually evil. By casting a net over all men like men are just the problem, it's actually allowing the perpetrators of these crimes to remain anonymous amongst the sea. If everyone could be a perpetrator, then no one is, and these perpetrators will not be caught. The real offenders get harder to track because nobody is looking for them. Certainly not these asshats, because they don't actually give a shit. And if the goal is accountability, then we need to be specific about what the problem is. These numbers matter because if 90% of the population has a problem with something, that's a societal-wide issue, and there needs to be an approach rooted in psychology, sociology, and our legal system. But if 1 out of 60,000, 67,000, or 0.0001%, that is not a society-wide issue. Is it still a serious situation? Yes, it is. The solution is different. The solution is we need to go after those fucking people that committed those crimes and punish them. And you know what? You're going to need men to do that, because women aren't going to be the ones to hunt down these predators and catch them. And you know what? There is a way to address this problem. I know that because, again, in the article, she talks about how she was actually able to identify and track down one of the perpetrators in the group. It's not really that hard because once you gain their trust, they often slip up and tell you information that would make it possible to locate them. There's also other tricks that can be done, such as sending them an IP address tracker that would reveal their location. Let's see what she did here.
By now, we'd worked out he was in Poland, and we knew roughly where he lived, but he refused to meet. And then, a tip. He let slip that he was planning to attend a party. That's him. I recognize him. So we're inside the restaurant, and I've just seen him dancing with her. And at the start of this investigation, all of these men were faceless. And so seeing him tonight has just really brought home the fact that this is happening in real life. The man who had been messaging me day and night was only a few feet away, oblivious. I'd come to see if he was real, and there he was with his wife, the same people I saw in the videos. We couldn't approach Piotr's wife without potentially putting her in danger, so we reached out to police about our findings.
She tracked him down just by gaining his trust and listening to what he had to say. So don't tell me that we can't do something about this problem. We absolutely can. And the solution is to go after the people committing these crimes and make examples of them, and to humiliate them online combined with legal consequences so that the punishments are so severe that no one even thinks of doing this in the future. As another example, on YouTube, there are a dozen or more channels that find and track down child predators. And oftentimes they do so simply by gaining the predator's trust. They are able to use a variety of tactics in order to determine their location, and they go and confront them and then hand over the information to law enforcement so that they can be correctly punished for their actions. A similar approach could be used to fight this problem, and I think that would be a great idea. But it's not gonna happen if the focus is on accusing all men of being predators when that is obviously not the case. Instead, we need to hold up the virtue of the standards that we want to have for people's behavior, whether they are male or female, and we need to track down, punish, and make examples of anyone committing crimes and assaults against others to let society know that that is absolutely unacceptable. But that's not what these people want. They just want to use these victims to advance their feminist liberal narrative. They don't actually care about the issue, because if they did, they would do something concrete about it rather than just flap their lips. All right, guys, I hope you got value out of it. If you're new here, my channel is about getting consensual, amazing relationships from high quality, beautiful women. If you'd like to know more about that, you can, first of all, subscribe to the channel. Number two, you can book a call with me through the link in the description below. I've got a free email newsletter, and be sure to check out either of these other two videos for more content just like this. Thank you. I'll see you in the next video.